to the Smart Tea podcast, where we talk about the lives of scientists and innovators who shape the world. I'm Aarati.
And I'm Jyoti, her mom.
And guess what, Mom? You are the inspiration for this week's episode.
No way. Why?
So a couple weeks ago, I went to the farmer's market and I got this huge bag of oranges. And apparently they were a huge hit. I had no idea. So then the next week I went back. I did not get the oranges. And you were extremely disappointed in me and asking
never,
me.
never disappointed in you. Always in the farmer's market.
But disappointed you didn't get oranges. And I hadn't realized that it was such a big thing.
Yeah, keep my immune system up, man.
Yeah. And so then I think around the same time, we also ran out of lemon juice that we had squeezed from. We have a lemon tree in our garden, and it had produced kind of a bumper crop of lemons over the winter.
And we worked through it so quickly.
Yeah. So I was like, what is this? We have apparently no lemon juice. We have no oranges. Like our family is just going through all of this. Yeah, all of this citrus. But I was thinking, well, I mean, at least we're not going to get scurvy in this house.
That was such a bad disease. I think it was called, the scurvy was called the scourge of the sailors.
Yes.
We don't know about those diseases anymore because we are in a developed country now, and the importance of all these nutrients are known. But it was a bad one in those early days. Yes.
It's so weird how my brain makes these connections of like, oh, well, we're going through citrus fruits like crazy. At least we're not going to get scurvy. And I'm like, when did I learn that?
Why did I say that? Why did my brain make that little connection?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, when did I learn that? Why did I learn that?
Yes.
And it's one of those things that just has stuck in my brain. And so I went hunting to find out more about this. And I came across this man named James Lind, who was the one who kind of put it together that citrus fruits were actually a cure for scurvy. And I was like, I remember learning about this in high school or something. So that's who we're going to be talking about today.
James Lind?
Yes.
All right.
I thought it was actually also a good one to maybe listen to after Frances Oldham Kelsey. If you have not listened to that one, I would suggest going back and listening to that one. And this is a really good kind of dovetail off of it, because in the Frances Oldham Kelsey episode, we were talking about drug development and how important it is to conduct proper clinical trials. And actually, James Lind isn't really famous for figuring out necessarily that citrus was able to cure scurvy. He's actually famous because he conducted the very first clinical trial, like official clinical trial.
So James Lind was the person who actually figured out how to design a clinical trial and extract meaningful information from these trials.
Well, of course, because it's the first clinical trial, it's not going to be like, there's definite holes. It's not going to be the most stellar, immaculate clinical trial ever conducted. But
the concept that it has to be properly organized, it has to be properly set up in order to confirm that the hypothesis is actually correct. That is an important concept.
Yes.
Nice. I like it.
So that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's talk first a little bit about James Lind as a person, and a little bit about his background. So James was born on October 4th, 1716 in Edinburgh, Scotland. His parents were James and Margaret Lind, and he had an older sister. James Lind Sr., his father, was a merchant, and the family was doing pretty well for themselves. Given that this is so early in time, there's not too much known about his childhood, like not many records were kept. We know that he had pretty good education because their family was, pretty well.
Merchant, so he has decent money, yes.
Yes, and he took an early interest in medicine, probably because his uncle was a physician.
Nice.
And he became pretty proficient in a few languages like Latin and Greek, particularly because these are the languages that were used a lot in medicine at the time. And he also studied German and French. So that's about what we know in terms of his education.
Prolific in languages. That's nice.
When James was 15, he started an apprenticeship under a surgeon named George Langlands. And this, again, is the time when being a physician and being a surgeon were two very different tracks. So, physicians were more educated and higher class than surgeons. This is about 100 years before Joseph Lister, who we talked about in episode
Oh,
3.
yes. So Lind is trying to become a surgeon. He's apprenticing under a surgeon.
Yes, correct.
In those days, I think surgeons were almost equivalent of butchers before
Yes.
Lister was.
Yeah, it was really brutal, very dirty, extremely painful and scary for the patient to have to undergo surgery because there's no
No
anesthesia.
anesthesia, no
Yeah.
anesthesia, no sterile techniques. So the chances of getting gangrene or any kind of infection on that open wound is definitely common
You're just as likely to die from an infection after the surgery as you are from blood loss during the surgery.
during the surgery.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And
not for
in
the
fact,
faint hearted.
I read somewhere that the surgeons in those days, the faster you were, the more skilled you were considered to be
Yes.
because you got through it very quickly.
Yes.
What had to be done. And the faster you do it and get the person out of their torment, the better you are.
Yeah. The minimal amount of pain for the patient.
Horrible, horrible times.
Yes. Thank God we don't do that anymore. So James is working under George Langlands and he's
Mhm.
learning how to bandage wounds, reset bones, and drain blood. He also, at the same time, attended some lectures on medicine at the University of Edinburgh, although he wasn't formally enrolled as a student. Here he learned the prevailing idea that physicians had at the time, which was that the body was composed of 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. And all of these humors had to be balanced in a healthy
Whoa,
body.
whoa, whoa. Hang on. Blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile.
Yes.
These were considered to be the 4 vital humors
Humors.
slash and humors as in fluids,
Yes.
basically. Interesting. This was what was considered in those days. This was
Yeah.
what was thought.
Yes. And diseases were all caused by like an imbalance in these
Imbalance
humors.
in these 4.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm trying to figure out. I'm just trying to translate this thought process into sort of a modern day context.
Yeah. So yellow bile was associated with choleric individuals and believed to
Hmm.
aid in digestion and flush out impurities.
Okay.
Black bile was associated with melancholy and believed to have a solidifying and retentive effect on metabolism and bone building. Blood is thought to be related to energy and nutrition, interestingly,
Yeah.
and associated with being active and social and like lively, which makes
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
It's all straight
Hmm.
from Wikipedia, by the way. And
Okay.
phlegm was associated with pus, mucus, saliva, and sweat, also associated with the brain, possibly because
Oh,
of the color of the brain
they
tissue,
all mixed up.
all
Okay.
that,
All right.
yeah, gray matter.
Yeah. Wow. This is so interesting. So they basically had the body divided into 4 different regions, basically the lymphatic, the digestive, the
Hmm.
respiratory, the cognitive. They called it the 4 humors and said they all have to be balanced for the individual to be balanced.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And he learns about this and believes in it and
Of
thinks,
course, because that's the prevalent thought. Hmm.
yes. He spent 8 years working under Dr. Langlands, at which point he applied to join the Royal Navy as a surgeon's
Mm.
mate to get more experience.
Okay.
So basically, a surgeon's mate is an assistant to the main surgeon on a Navy ship.
Yes.
And his job consisted mostly of menial tasks like washing wounds, bandaging or changing bandages, and sweeping and cleaning up in general. But again, when I
Yes.
say cleaning up, we are so far away from
Sterile
sanitization.
techniques.
Yeah.
Yes, we are nowhere near sterile techniques. It was just
Yes.
basically keep things
Keep things
orderly, wipe the blood
tidy.
off.
Yeah,
Yes, sweep the floor off of all the extra body parts that were thrown out.
exactly.
Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful I'm not in those times.
Okay, wait for it. Because I was actually reading some descriptions of what it was like to be on a Navy ship at the time. So it's like not only do you
Hmm.
have this layer of surgery being really awful, but
Yes.
being a sailor at the time was also just the most horrible experience. I can't believe
Oh,
that anyone survived a voyage at sea at this time reading these
oh wow.
descriptions.
Okay.
So Stephen R. Bone wrote, quote, "The sailors' wooden world was infested with refuse, trash, rotting flesh, urine, and vomit. The mariners were
Oh,
either crammed into their quarters like sardines in a box, or slept, occasionally, in good weather, sprawled like hounds on the deck. The holds were
oh,
crammed with vermin, festering and spoiled provisions, and in some cases, rotting corpses." End quote.
oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. And you're trapped in that sea. You
Yes.
have nowhere to go. There's no place to get away from the ship.
Yeah. And that's without like now if you're sick on top of that or if you need surgery
Oh,
on top of that, like
forget it. Forget
yes.
it. You can just make sure that your last will is in place.
I'm going to throw myself overboard because that'll probably be a
It'll
faster
be less painful.
yeah.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, horrible. Truly horrible.
So, unsurprisingly, at this time, the thing that killed most Navy sailors wasn't storms at sea or warfare, it was disease and malnourishment.
Yes, yes. I can't believe that such unhygienic conditions prevailed. This was the time when they were going out conquering various lands
Yes,
by sea.
yes. So that's a great segue. I'm about to get into that. So in 1740, a naval officer, Commodore George Anson of the British Royal Navy, set off on a voyage to South America to try to take over some Spanish territories in the Pacific.
Yes,
Spain was bringing back so much wealth at this time in terms of precious metals like silver and sugar and tobacco and other spices from territories in South America and the Caribbean. And
yes,
Britain and Spain had been butting heads for a really long time over this area. And
yes,
so Commodore George Anson from the British Navy has a squadron of 6 warships and 2 supply ships that are sent out to disrupt or capture Spanish possessions in this area.
yes,
So he set out from Great Britain with 1,854 sailors under his command. He ended up circumnavigating the globe on this voyage, and by the time he
Hmm.
made it back, only 188 men had survived the trip.
That's about 10%.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is horrifying.
Yes. They were going there to basically wage war with the Spanish, but
Yes,
their journey has been very well documented. And it turns out that by far the biggest killer of men was not their battles with the Spanish or storms at
yes,
sea, but
yes.
disease.
Wow. This basic concept that maybe the men who fight under them need to be better cared for,
Hmm.
that connection was not there in the brain.
No, not at all.
I know that in those days, the British, at least, they had this aristocracy.
Hmm.
There were about 500 families, I believe, that were at the top of the food chain at that point. Rest of them were all like, you managed to eke out a living. Some of them rise to better positions with some sort of being a naval officer or some sort of a merchant or, like you said, surgeon or something like that.
Yeah.
But then the masses, there was great inequality of wealth distribution and resource distribution. So n- no attention was paid to people who were actually doing the hard work.
And that's what I was also reading was that, a lot of these ships, they would just pack on a bunch of extra people because they knew that these men were going to die probably from disease. And so their solution was not to try and figure this out or try to make the living
Fix the
better.
problem, fix the
Yeah,
root
their
cause.
solution was, well, okay, so if 50% of the people are going to die, add on an extra 50% of people so that when those 50% of people die, we still have enough people to run the ship.
But which actually aggravates the root cause even
Yes,
further.
it makes it all
My,
worse.
so brilliant.
Yeah. These men are facing numerous illnesses, including typhoid fever, lice,
Yes.
dysentery, malaria, and
That would
scurvy.
spread so quickly. One person
Hmm.
catches it, brings it in. That's it. The entire ship is now compromised. The vermin actually, the rats and the mice, they're such good carriers of the disease also.
Hmm.
They add to the problem further. They spread it out, like by getting into the food, going from one to another.
Yeah, and they're having a great time because all the food is like starting to get moldy already and it's not great and the rats don't care, so they're having a great time.
They are having a great time. And
Yeah.
then the moldy food is now further aggravating the problem
Hmm.
because they're getting sick.
Yes.
This is horrendous to even just listen to.
Yeah. It was bad reading about it. I was like, how are people surviving this? How does
Yes.
anyone live through this? This is insane.
Yes.
And then the fact that James Lind signed up for this voluntarily, I was like,
Yeah. Yes. Why would
why?
anybody want to do this? Why would
Yes.
anybody say, yes, sign me on?
Yeah, sign me up. It
Count me
sounds like the
in.
worst possible job to be a surgeon on a naval ship.
Yes.
Like,
It's like sign me on to live in these horrendous conditions so that I
yeah.
can inflict a lot of pain onto people in the name of, healing them.
Yes.
This is this
I
is
could
a
not. I could
different
not.
different mindset.
Different breed of person. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so these men are facing numerous illnesses, and scurvy in particular killed hundreds of men within just the
Yes.
first few weeks of that voyage of George Ansom's
Mm.
voyage. So, a little bit more about scurvy. It's, like you said, a horrible disease that results from a lack of vitamin C.
Yes.
So, at this time, people didn't know about the existence of vitamins at all. They weren't
Mm.
discovered until 170 years later. But one of the main places that humans get vitamin C is in fruits, especially in citrus fruits
Yes.
like oranges and lemons. But on these naval ships, fresh food went bad really quickly because
Correct.
they didn't have a way to preserve it.
They don't have methods. Yes.
Yes. And James Lind wrote that typically food on the ship would consist of, quote, putrid beef, rancid pork, moldy biscuits, and flour, end quote.
Wow. Sounds what utterly, what should I say?
Disgusting.
Horrible. Can't I would rather starve.
Yeah, there's no
This
nutritional
is
value in that at all.
forget nutritional value. The food itself is going to make you sick.
Yes, if you try to eat
If it
it.
is if it is becoming rancid, the food
Hmm.
is going to make you sick.
Yes.
No
Yes.
wonder they had to live in the midst of vomit and all that.
Yeah.
No wonder any internal digestive system would rebel
Yeah.
against this kind of food being put in. It's like, no, 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 you better starve. This is going to poison you completely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who were sailors at this time were pressed into it or like basically kidnapped and forced
Yes.
to live on these ships because no one is doing this voluntarily. No one is like, oh yeah, I'm going to join the Navy and I'm going to.
This is the flip side of it. So India had been colonized by the British, and the British systematically, for more than 150 years, they systematically took away India's wealth. And so I know that side of it. I know that the Indian people suffered a lot through colonization. But here I'm looking now at the flip side of it, that the vast majority of Britishers also seem to have suffered a lot for this colonization process.
Yes.
The vast majority of the people in the countries were severely affected. They were either dying of disease or they were dying of malnutrition. And there's upper echelons of society who are enjoying the fruits of all of this.
Yes. They're untouched by all the disease and all the like
Because
hardship.
the money is just siphoning there. The money is
Yes.
just being siphoned upwards.
Yeah.
And all the people who are doing the horrible, horrible work or
Hmm.
who are being robbed on the other side, they're all just treated like chattel. There's like you're a number. You're not a person. You're a statistic.
Yeah. And sadly, things have not really changed today, I feel like.
Yes, there is. I think even like a few years back, there was slightly better equalization of wealth.
Yes,
Yeah,
it did get
like we
better for a little
often
bit.
little bit, but again, there's a lot of push to bring that wealth inequality back,
Yes.
because of course, how would the wealthy people live if the poor people take some crumbs off their table?
Yeah.
That would be terrible for them, poor things.
Yes. Okay, so back to scurvy. When someone contracts scurvy, they feel weakness, fatigue, and muscle soreness. As the
Hmm.
disease progresses, patients develop gum disease, their teeth start to get loose, and wounds won't heal. There was even one reported case where a man who had broken a bone years ago caught scurvy, and that bone that had supposedly healed broke again in exactly the same way.
Yes,
Ultimately, if left untreated, the patients can develop edema, neuropathy, fever, convulsions, and will finally die. So it's a rough
painful,
disease. Yeah.
painful. Hmm.
So now you add to that Commodore Anson's horrible journey and the way that the story was told. That really is what captured the public's attention. And so now there's renewed interest in figuring out how do we combat scurvy, this horrible disease. We need to figure out a
Yes,
cure. So now we're going back to James Lind, who's working as a surgeon's mate in the Navy. He was making very careful observations of all the illnesses that he was seeing aboard the ship and what
hmm.
was working to help patients and what wasn't. Particularly, he had seen scurvy several times and he had seen all of the things that people were trying to get rid of it, and nothing was really working.
Yes.
The one thing that did seem to have some benefit was citrus. And
Hmm.
like I mentioned, this is not his idea. This is just something he's observing. Cit-
Yes, empirical. It's an empirical observation. He's
yes,
observing that it's available. Yes. Okay.
yes. But citrus as a treatment to treat scurvy dates all the way back to the early 1600s when an
Okay.
English sailor, Sir James Lancaster, brought lemon juice with him on his voyages and made his crew drink 3 spoonfuls a day to ward off the disease.
Oh,
When they ran out and his crew started showing signs of scurvy, at the next point he docked, he made sure to stock up on lemons again.
smart. Okay.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
he had kind of figured it out, but he was just a random sailor and not someone who
Yes.
could really make like medical claims about this working.
Uh huh.
But there was also a medical professional, a military surgeon named John Woodall, who had also recommended lemon juice should be taken aboard ships to prevent scurvy when it popped up.
Okay.
But the problem was that there are just so many theories at the time about what might cause scurvy and what might cure it that this lemon
Yes.
juice idea just never really became widespread because there's just so many things that it could be.
Yes. I bet it was such a horrible thing. Everybody was suggesting every single thing that they could
Yeah.
think of, and so the real data got lost in the noise.
Yeah. Everyone is just trying everything. So, James, who's very interested in all of this, of course, is taking notes and keeping tabs and keeps coming back to this idea that, hey, maybe lemon juice might actually work.
Hmm.
He thought there might be something to the idea of using acids like vitamin C, which is also ascorbic acid. That's what it's called.
But that information was not known at that time, right? Like,
I think they knew maybe it was acidic. Like they knew that lemon juice and
okay,
yeah, citrus was acidic.
citrus juice is acidic. That's about it.
Yes.
So then he's thinking, okay, if citrus juice fixes it, does any acid fix it? That's where
Yeah.
he's going.
Yeah, that's where he's going. So he thought that maybe acids in general can help prevent the breakdown of the body.
Yes.
And that seemed promising, but it had never been tested properly.
Okay.
So he starts thinking, what if I were to set up an experiment to see if lemon juice actually works or if it's just like another random treatment that doesn't actually work. As a surgeon's mate, though, he couldn't really do much of anything because he's an assistant to the actual surgeon, so he has no authority to carry out any sort of experiment like this.
Yes.
But in 1747, James was promoted to the ship's surgeon of the HMS Salisbury at the age of 31. And now he has some authority to try his ideas as long as the captain of the ship agreed.
Okay, so still there is somebody else he has to ask. Okay.
Yeah, you can't start messing around the sailors without the captain say so.
Captain agreeing with this. Okay.
Yes. So in May of 1747, when symptoms of scurvy started showing up on the ship, James went to the ship's captain, the Honorable George Edgecombe, who luckily appreciated science as a whole, and he gave James the green light to try an experiment.
Okay.
So James took 12 sailors who had advanced symptoms of scurvy. He said, quote, all in general had putrid gums, the spots and lassitude with weakness of their knees, end quote. He separated the 12 men into 6 pairs, with each pair staying in different rooms and getting different treatments for 2 weeks. One pair drank 1 quart of alcoholic cider each day.
Okay.
The next pair had to take 25 drops of elixir of vitriol, which I looked up, and it's basically a mixture of some alcohol, sulfuric acid, and aromatic spices.
Okay, that almost sounds like Coca-Cola. That almost
kind of.
Sounds like Coca-Cola.
It kind of does sound like
Isn't
Coke.
it? Isn't Coca-Cola having some sort of a horrible...
It used to have cocaine in it.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. I did not know this. Okay.
Which is why they called cocaine Coke.
Interesting. I did not know this. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you, but I'm trying to get what the 6 pairs were. Cider was the first one, and then there is the sulfuric acid
elixir
concoction.
Of vitriol is the second one.
Yes. Yes.
The third pair took 2 spoonfuls of vinegar 3 times a day.
Okay.
The fourth pair had to drink half a pint of seawater a day.
Oh, no. That's terrible. Okay. Yeah. That's almost like a negative control.
Yeah, almost. But they actually thought that might work. So that was like a legitimate thing that people thought.
People are floating around this idea that this works. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The fifth pair were given 2 oranges and 1 lemon every day.
Okay.
And the last pair were given a medicinal paste that consisted of garlic, mustard seed, radish root, balsam, and gum myrrh, which was washed down with tamarind and barley water.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
So these are the 6 treatments. Other than these treatments, the sailors were given exactly the same diet, which James strictly controlled. Yes. And they were given laxatives every few days to purge the sailors, quote unquote.
Got it. Okay.
So no group was like, you kind of mentioned that seawater was kind of like a negative control, but like I said, they really thought that might work. So actually this experiment,
in the real design, if you think about it, there was no negative control.
Yes.
The negative control would be all the other sailors who are not in this experiment.
Yes. So there's no control group or no group that was just given plain water or something.
Okay.
But this setup that he had where, he's separating a bunch of sailors into different groups and really tightly controlling their environment and their conditions and what they eat and how they live, and just trying to change this one thing of about their diet. This is what is regarded as the first clinical trial that was ever done.
This is the foundation of a well planned out experiment.
Yes, he's pitting all these supposed treatments against each other to see if any of them are real.
Keep as many constants as possible.
Yeah.
And then just have one variable that changes, and then now you can link that variable to the outcome very clearly.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, so curious about the results?
Absolutely. I am dying.
Okay.
Not of scurvy.
Yes, not of scurvy. Thank you.
Of curiosity.
Hi everyone, Aarati here. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If so, and you wish someone would tell your science story, I founded a science communications company called SciComm, that's SYKOM, that can help. SciComm blends creativity with scientific accuracy to create all types of science communications content, including explainer videos, slide presentations, science writing, and more. We work with academic researchers, tech companies, nonprofits, or really any scientist to help simplify your science. Check us out at SciCommer.com. That's SYKOMMER.com. Okay, back to the story. So, the pair that drank 1 quart of alcohol improved slightly, but at the end of 2 weeks, they were still not cured. James thought that maybe the alcohol had slowed down the scurvy, but definitely didn't cure it. And today, scientists think that maybe the alcohol actually did contain a small amount of vitamin C that would account for this.
When you say alcohol, didn't you say cider, the first one?
Alcoholic cider.
Alcoholic. So cider does, that's why I was thinking that
Yes.
cider must have some vitamin C in it.
Yes. That's what people today think. People today think that because it was alcoholic cider, it probably did have.
So it was not exactly alcoholic, because it was alcoholic cider.
Yes.
So cider comes from, say, apples or whatever.
Yeah, some fruit. Yeah.
And so there's some vitamin C comes through.
Yes.
So that's what was helping them.
Yes, but it's such low amounts in alcoholic cider that it didn't
because
cure
it's broken down by the time. Yes, because it's not fresh anymore.
Yeah, you're not getting a really good dose of it. You're getting this very
good dose of it. Yeah,
little bit of it.
Yes.
Okay, the second group, the men who had the elixir of vitriol, they had better breath and oral hygiene, but otherwise were not cured.
It just cured the symptoms and not the cause, because you're killing the bacteria in there. The sulfuric acid is basically killing all the things that are now destroying your teeth.
Yes. The 3 other groups of vinegar, seawater, and medicinal paste treatments didn't do anything, didn't seem to help at all. So the only treatment that really seemed to make a difference were in the men who had the oranges and lemons. And interestingly, they actually ran out of fresh fruit on day 6 of this clinical trial. But by that time, one sailor was already recovered and ready to go back to duty, and the other one was almost fully recovered.
Oh, that is unbelievably excellent.
Yes, so fast. It works so fast.
Yeah, so when you started this story, you said he took the 12 of the worst possible cases.
Yes.
And then he was treating them.
Yes.
And of course, the captain said, sure, go ahead. These fellows are not going to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and take care of them.
Try your idea.
Use them for their experiment, because they are of no use to me as a captain. That's what the captain is thinking.
Probably.
And within 6 days of oranges, at least one guy is back on track.
Yeah.
And the other guy is close to being back on track.
Almost there.
That is wonderful.
But interestingly, though, James didn't go jumping up and down and yelling about this to everyone, at least in the moment. He doesn't seem like he tried to spread this news. He doesn't seem like he tried to take his studies any further and replicate this. He keeps this pretty quiet. And I can only speculate based on my research and what I was reading, but it kind of sounded like he was almost a bit disappointed that some of the other treatments didn't work.
Yes.
Drinking seawater would have been an awesome treatment.
Such an easy fix.
That would have been so
there.
easy.
Drink it.
Yeah.
I can actually, I kind of get a good sense of why he might have been disappointed, because the cure turned out to be something that was very difficult to implement.
Yes.
To convince the powers that be that they need to provide fresh fruit to people on the ship would have been a very difficult task, actually.
Yes.
But if instead you could tell them, oh yeah, give them the elixir of vitriol, which is very easy to bottle up and not that expensive, and it won't get spoiled.
Yes, exactly.
So he was hoping for an easy and cheap fix, but the fix turned out to be something that was a little more difficult to implement.
Yeah.
It's more expensive, actually, to
Yes.
carry fresh food for so many people, make sure that it doesn't get destroyed within few days by whatever vermin and other things.
Yeah, and
That's
you
a
have to
hard
like
one.
plan to make sure like, oh, we're probably going to run out at this point, so we need to make a stop at this place to restock.
Yes,
And that
yes,
takes more time and more money and
yes.
everything.
And you
So,
have to keep everything clean because fresh fruit will get spoiled quickly. So you have to
mhm.
keep everything. So it's expensive in terms of the fruit. It's expensive in terms of storing and keeping them in good condition,
Yeah.
replenishing it, making sure the vermin doesn't get to them. That's an expensive
Yes.
treatment. So
Yes.
that is why he's a bit disappointed.
Yeah. And like all of that is true, but also on the flip side, he also, I think, was kind of not convinced that something so simple like eating citrus fruits could cure this horrible disease that imbalanced all your humors and like made your teeth fall out and made your bones
Yes,
break and all these things.
yes.
Like,
All you do is eat an orange.
yes, he's like, no way that this one thing could cure scurvy. It has to be more complicated than that. And so it's like this really weirdly simple and yet not so simple solution that he's
Yes.
struggling with. And so he kind of keeps quiet. And very shortly after this experiment in 1748, James retires from the Navy and returns to Edinburgh to pursue his medical degree. And I think one more reason I think that he kept quiet about his findings was because he was a surgeon and he didn't have a medical education that a physician would
Yes,
have
the
had.
physician. He was not a real doctor because only physicians are real doctors. Surgeons
Yes.
were just butchers in those days. So,
Yes. So he retires from the Navy and goes to Edinburgh to become a real physician to pursue a medical degree. He writes up his thesis on venereal disease, which is another
hmm,
illness that sailors probably contracted all the time. So he was really
hmm,
familiar with it. And he
yes,
gets his medical degree and he starts practicing medicine around Edinburgh and he
hmm,
continues his research quietly on
hmm.
scurvy.
He
Yes.
continues. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Also, around this time, he gets married to a woman named Isabel Dickey, who one source
hmm,
says was a cousin of his. Not
hmm.
sure, not a lot known, but I do know they had 4 children together, 3 boys and 1 girl.
Okay.
By 1750, James is elected as a fellow at the Royal College of Physicians of Edinburgh. And now,
Hmm.
finally, James sets about formally writing up the results of the experiment that he did aboard the HMS
So
Salisbury.
many years ago, because now he has the clout and the
Mm-hmm.
recognition that is required to lend weight to his sayings.
Yes, and he's been studying it now for many years. However, as he's writing about scurvy and what he learned
Mhm.
about it, its causes, symptoms, and all the possible treatments, he gathered so much information that what started out as a short essay actually turned into a 3-part book.
My goodness, that is
Yes,
a lot of work.
a lot of work. In 1753, James published a treatise of the scurvy, which he dedicated
Hmm.
to George Anson, whose disastrous trip, where he lost like 90% of his men,
90% of his crew.
yeah, is what inspired James to become interested in scurvy in the first place.
Wow. So it's dedicated to the guy
Yes, it's dedicated
who
to the
caused,
captain of the ship.
who was the captain of this disaster.
Yes. In the
My
book,
goodness.
James got the cause of scurvy completely wrong. Again, it's boiling down to the humors being imbalanced in the body. But he did advocate for the prevention of the disease by taking fresh citrus fruit and green vegetables onto ships. And in
Yeah.
somewhat of a radical idea at the time, he argued that prevention of the disease would be better than trying to cure it. Surprise, surprise.
What a radical concept. Prevention is better than cure is
Yes.
practically a adage at this point.
Yes. So he was advocating for better living conditions, saying that sailors should be provided with adequate warmth, fresh air, and enough rest to help prevent the disease.
Treat those sailors like human beings, then they might actually live through and 90% of them may not die on a ship.
Yeah.
That's quite a radical concept. All right.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like so we know obviously that like none of those things would have directly prevented scurvy, but it would have made things a lot better.
It would have made things a lot better.
Yeah.
Just living in filth is that itself causes. It's not just the physical discomfort and the physical challenges,
Yeah.
but also the mental decline that comes with that kind of, the depression, the melancholy, like they put it in those days.
Yes.
You're already far away from your loved ones. You're already far away from family
You've probably been gang pressed into this in the first place. Like you
to
didn't want to
begin
do
with. Yeah,
this.
you didn't want to do this. You have been separated from people who love you,
Mhm.
and now you're living in utter squalor.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe treating them like human beings might have helped a bit. Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So he publishes this treatise on scurvy, and
Hmm.
you would think maybe that after this book is published, people would sit up and notice and be like, oh, we need to start taking
Mm-hmm.
lemon juice and like
Hmm.
citrus fruit on our voyages. But actually, no, this book got
Hmm.
very little attention. And
Hmm.
actually, there were some physicians who tried to refute James's work because it didn't
Hmm.
agree with their own theories. And
Yes.
since James couldn't accurately pinpoint the cause of scurvy, people
Mm-hmm.
were less inclined to believe that he had come up with the right treatment. So for years, nothing really changed, even though he had figured this out.
So he was right. He judged the political and the social climate
Hmm.
quite accurately. He did his initial clinical trial,
Hmm.
basically, that first clinical trial with 12 people who had scurvy. And he kind of kept the whole results under wraps kind of thing. But even after he himself had gained a lot of recognition and power, basically, because now he's a true physician, quote
Yes,
unquote.
he has the credentials now backing him.
He has the credentials to back up whatever he's declaring are his findings. Even then, his findings are being shunted aside.
Yeah. So nothing really changed.
Hmm.
But James continued to work towards improving the health of sailors. In 1957, he published another paper called,
Sorry. I think you said the date wrong.
oh,
You said
probably, yeah, I
1957.
did. Thank you. I wrote 1957 too. It's
Okay.
1757.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so in 1757, he published another paper called Essay on the Most Effectual Means of Preserving the Health of Seamen in the Royal Navy, which he
Hmm.
dedicated to Captain George Edgecombe, who had let him run the experiment on the Salisbury.
Yes.
And again, he reiterated how he thought it was far more important and effective to prevent disease in sailors
Hmm.
rather than try to cure it after they became sick. In addition to good hygiene and food, he said that new recruits should be quarantined from the rest of the sailors for a certain time period so that they wouldn't pass along any of their land diseases to the crew.
Yes. Such fantastic concepts
Yeah,
that are
he's really
taken for
ahead of his
granted now.
time.
Absolutely. A genius is never recognized in their own time.
Yeah, it's really sad. His ideas were so good.
Could have saved so many lives if they took him seriously.
Yeah. So, although his treatise on scurvy didn't really go anywhere, his passion for helping sailors was very clear. And so it's
Hmm.
no surprise that in 1758, James was appointed to be chief physician to the Royal Naval Hospital at
Hmm.
Haslar, where he
Hmm.
treated sailors who were returning from their time at seas with all sorts of illnesses. James continued to study these diseases and propose treatments for them. In 1762, he published an idea for providing fresh water on board
Hmm.
ships by distilling seawater.
Oh, wow, that's a good concept. Hmm.
Yeah, so he had realized that when you boil seawater, the steam was clean and pure water. And if you could collect that, you would have fresh water. So he reasoned that sailors could use the sun to evaporate seawater and then collect it to drink because, this is a time when we can't like take a stove really onto the ship. Like we don't have
Yes,
electricity. So it's like,
yes.
let's use solar power.
What a remarkable genius. He was so far ahead of his time.
Yeah. I had to do this actually in middle school. Our science teacher gave us a 2-liter soda bottle that was empty and gave us dirty water, and basically using that and a couple of like some scissors and some tape or something, like a few other things, we had to figure out how, if this was the only materials that we had on a deserted island, how would we make fresh water? And this
Hmm.
basically was the solution. Like, you put all the dirty water at the bottom of the bottle, and then you create this like kind of contraption using the scissors, and you cut the bottle in half or something, and then you flip the
Uh-huh.
top upside down. I don't
Ah.
remember exactly,
So
but
almost like
there's
you're creating a distilling
yes,
device.
yes. And
Hmm.
then you put it out in the sun, and then the dirty water evaporates, and that clean
And
water
then condenses at the
condenses
top, clean, and then it goes
and then drips down into a little cup.
into a cleaner cup.
Yeah.
Nice. So
So,
he came up with that idea too.
yes. Yeah. But like the key thing that he realized is that when the water evaporates, it's leaving behind all the salt and the dirt,
Yes.
and the stuff that's evaporated is clean water. That's like the key that
Nice.
he
That's
realized.
right.
Yeah.
That he realized. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was a really good idea, but it didn't take hold until decades later in the early
Oh.
1800s, when a new type
Hmm.
of stove was invented that could be used on ships and could be used to distill water.
I see. I
Yeah,
see. But solar power, man, that would
I
have been.
know.
And you have patience because you're sitting there on the ship with
Yeah,
nothing
what
else
else are you
going
going
on.
to do?
Yeah, rig up those contraptions up there in a corner somewhere,
Yeah,
and have clean water supplies.
yeah. And it's doing it itself while you're doing other things.
Yes. Yes. Ah. Okay.
In 1763, he published 2 papers on fever and infection, which
Hmm.
again talked about preventative care and treatments for sailors. And in 1771, he published an essay on diseases incidental to Europeans in hot climates, in which he talked about malaria, dysentery, heat stroke, and touches again a little bit on scurvy.
Yes.
And this is for all those, like you were saying, those Europeans that are going into these tropical climates to
Yes.
wage warfare and
And
colonize these.
colonize those areas to bring
Yeah,
back the wealth into Europe.
yeah.
Yes.
They're all having a tough time because, Great Britain is like cold and foggy, and now they're going into the tropics, and their bodies are not equipped to handle that.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't have the correct tools to deal with this.
Yeah. So he
Yes.
suggests
Yes.
that European sailors need to be allowed to slowly acclimatize to tropical environments, as well as stay hydrated, clean, rested, and nourished. Like,
Unbelievable that these basic concepts were being put out as novel ideas at that time, but in addition are being completely rejected, and he's having a hard time convincing anybody in power to implement these concepts.
yeah, it took a while for anyone to catch on. So it was very important work that he did for naval officers and physicians in general. And there were a few people who are like, oh, hey, this is useful because I'm actually trying to treat these people who also have malaria or who also have these tropical diseases. This is
Yeah.
someone who's actually studying it. So he was getting a bit of attention, but like definitely not as much as
Yes.
he deserved.
Yes.
James eventually retired from the Royal Naval Hospital in 1783, and his oldest son, John, who had also become a physician by then, took over as chief physician. James died at the age of 77 in 1794 in Hampshire, England. And somewhat ironically, 1 year later, the Royal Navy finally got on board with James's theory that citrus juice could help prevent scurvy. So by this
Wow.
time, even though it wasn't medically accepted, enough Navy officers had noticed this correlation between drinking lemon juice and avoiding scurvy.
I would like to think that as a naval officer,
Hmm.
he met, socially with a lot of people in that field. And so he was able to maybe hold, I'm just imagining this in my own way. And
Hmm.
he's having dinner parties for other naval officers. And he's talking very logically, clearly, and effectively
Yeah.
and convincingly about this link to scurvy and lemon juice. So basically, even though he is not able to say this is the cause of scurvy and
Hmm.
this particular nutrient in lemon juice or in
Yeah.
citrus is the one that cures it. He has acquired enough data to be able to convince these officers who are kind of coming through.
Yeah. And I imagine all the sailors he's treating at the hospital too, he's kind of like dropping this knowledge on them little by little, like, oh, you had scurvy? Let me tell you how to take care of it
Yeah.
next time. Like,
So basically, just like in a very, almost like a grassroots movement,
yes. And I think by this time, like people had been trying it and realizing that it was working. Like it
it
took a few
did work.
years, but people were like,
Yes,
wait a minute, this is actually working. This is actually working.
yes,
And so
yes,
there was enough anecdotal evidence, I guess, within the naval officers and the sailors that they were realizing themselves that, hey,
yes,
this is actually working. And
yes.
so in 1794, the same year that James died, a ship called the Suffolk was making a 3-week long nonstop trip to India. And
Mm.
the senior officers demanded that lemon juice preserved in alcohol be provided to the crew.
Mm.
When the whole crew came back without any of
Yeah,
them having contracted scurvy, the Royal Navy finally was like, hey, this
there
might
might be
actually
something to
be,
this.
yeah, this might actually be a thing. And
Nice.
so in 1795, 1 year after his death, the Admiralty issued an order that lemon juice should be provided on long sea voyages.
Hmm.
Within a few years, scurvy pretty much disappeared. By the early 1810s, John Lind, who is James' son, reported that he had only seen 2 cases of scurvy over a 4-year period.
From 90% death to two
Yes.
cases.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And so, although James didn't originally come up with the idea of using citrus to prevent scurvy, and he didn't really understand why it worked, he is recognized for setting up this clinical trial and proving that it was the one that was working as opposed to all these other random treatments that were floating out there.
Yes.
So, because of this, his name is now written on the frieze of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. In 1952, citrus growers in California and Arizona funded the James Lind Commemorative Plaque, which is now at the University of Edinburgh Medical School.
Oh, nice.
And in 2004, the James Lind Alliance was formed. It is a nonprofit organization in the UK that helps ensure that the priorities of patients are taken into consideration by researchers. So that was like a really big thing in James's life, that he was constantly like, how do I make sailors' lives better through my work?
Better.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so,
Oh, just fundamental, absolutely the basic decencies like,
yeah.
clean water, fresh food, greens. He was recommending taking greens along. Basic concepts. Prevention is better than cure. All
Yes.
of these things. And they did have sayings in those days, such as a stitch in time saved nine. And yet, when it came to the human body, they did
Yeah,
not
they
make the
didn't
same
think about it.
connections.
Yeah.
They didn't think about it. It is interesting.
Yeah.
Those times where all these, what we take for absolutely, we take it for granted today. Those building blocks were actually being put in place
Yeah,
in
the
those
things we're taught
days.
as children, like eat a balanced diet, eat your fruits and veggies. If you want to grow
Yes,
up big and strong, you have to eat all the food groups. Like,
yes,
yeah, all of
yes.
all of that stuff that we're taught as really young kids was just, you know, non-existent back then.
Even I'm thinking of India back in those times. We have these things where they have what do you call it? The myths almost, but
Hmm.
oh, these are all old wives' tales kind of thing. Those are considered as old wives' tales.
Hmm.
Basically, things like eat before dusk, and then one person has to serve everybody,
Hmm.
and then once you eat, the food has to be finished and all the remaining food has to be put away, like given to the cows.
Yeah.
Take fresh food every day. Oh, and don't mix the serving ladles from dish A to dish B. When you think about it, they all were rooted back to the same hygiene
Mm-hmm.
and but creating an environment where there is no infection and there is no festering
Yeah.
vermin coming in. If one person is in charge of serving everybody, which in today's times it is absolutely dismissed as being the most horrible, because usually it was the woman who ended up serving,
Mm-hmm.
while the rest of the family sat and ate, and then she ate later. And so it is considered extremely backward today. But if you think about it more carefully, when one person is in charge of serving out the food, the main pot of food does not get cross contaminated back.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is talking or laughing loudly, the spit from their mouth does not just fly and land into the main pot of food,
Yeah.
because the lady is keeping the pot at a higher level and serving people, and then she is
Yeah. Keeping it clean.
keeping it clean and hygienic, lack of vermin, lack of infection. All these
Yeah.
concepts are there, but they, like you said, it's exactly that people are not able to see the link very clearly
Mm-hmm.
as to, okay, doing this causes this, doing this prevents this.
Yeah.
And because of that, they basically throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, this also reminded me of like the whole turmeric thing. Like when I was in grad school, there's this paper that came out that it was like, oh, there's this compound in turmeric that's apparently very anti-inflammatory, and then turmeric started
Mm,
becoming this huge thing in
mm,
medicine or in preventative
mm.
care. Like, oh, if you eat turmeric, it prevents these hosts of inflammatory diseases. It's so good for your skin. It's so good for your immune system. And I'm like, yeah, we've known that for a long time. Like that's why turmeric is in everything we eat. Basically, it
Yes,
it is just
yes,
there. And maybe we didn't know
mm,
exactly what compound it was within the turmeric that was doing this, but we
yes,
understood that it was good for you. And turmeric is just one example. We have that with like
yes,
all the different cumin and ginger
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
greens and vegetables and all of
yes.
that.
All those things that you find like in the markets now, in the natural foods like
Mm-hmm.
turmeric and ashwagandha,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
they are actually key ingredients in Ayurvedic medicine, which is a branch of medicine in India.
Mm-hmm.
And that also has the same concept. Prevention is better than cure.
Yes.
Take it slowly, identify the root cause. They also have the same thoughts, like the
Yeah.
humors, various humors.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, even though they are not able to explain it clearly,
Mm-hmm.
there is validity to
Yeah.
the connections that they have drawn empirically.
Yes. They have the right idea. Should listen to the
Yes.
ancient people more often.
Yes.
They knew what they were talking about sometimes.
Yeah. There is ancient wisdom that has been lost.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the story.
What a fantastic story.
And I had no idea about all of this. I knew there was some connection between him and citrus and scurvy, but I didn't realize he was the first person to set up a clinical trial.
And like I said, for me it was interesting to note that colonization caused a lot of pain everywhere,
Mhm.
not just
Yes.
to the colonized countries, but
Yes.
also to the countries who were doing the
Yeah, no
colonizing.
one wants
It-
this. No one want only
yeah,
those higher up
yeah.
people want it. No one else wants war. No one else wants to colonize anybody. Everyone just wants to live their life, and it's these higher
Live
up
and
people
let
that are
live.
screwing us all over. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a small bunch of very greedy people screw everybody else over.
Yeah. Everyone else is just like, I just want to stay home. Like,
Yes, yes.
live my
Be in my
life.
garden.
Yeah, be
Yes.
happy. Yeah, I don't want to go conquering all these lands. I don't want to get on that ship. No, I don't. I really don't.
Yes, yes, I really
Yeah.
don't. In that case, are you going to be gang pressed?
Yes.
And we're going
Yes.
to make you do it, whether
Yeah.
you like it or not.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Aarti. This was a fantastic story. I love listening to your stories.
Yes, I really enjoyed researching it, so I'm glad you liked it. Thanks for listening. If you have a suggestion for a story we should cover or thoughts you want to share about an episode, reach out to us at smartteapodcast.com. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Smart Tea Podcast and listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And leave us a rating or comment. It helps us grow. New episodes are released every other Wednesday. See you next time.